Some people hear that title and immediately think lonely. Others think independent. The truth, living alone doesn't put you in one box. It's a whole shelf of stories, challenges, and choices. Tonight, I'm going to tell you what it's really like, the good, the hard, and the parts no one warns you about, and why it might just be the most liberating chapter of your life. You know, one of the first things I realized when I started living alone was this: every single thing in my space now had a story I chose. The couch wasn't the, well, we compromised couch. The pictures on the wall weren't the wanted it there pictures. They were mine. And that's not just about furniture. That's about ownership of your environment in a way that starts to shape the way you think, feel, and even walk through life. When you live with someone, even in a healthy relationship, you're always negotiating space. Where things go, how things look, what's acceptable, what's not. But when it's just you, that negotiation disappears. And in its place comes this quiet permission to make your space exactly what you want. And that, my friends, is powerful. There's a strange thing that happens when your space becomes fully yours. You start noticing details you never paid attention to before. The way the light hits your favorite chair in the morning, the sound of your own footsteps on hardwood, the smell of the candles you pick out, not because they're trendy or someone else likes them, but because they make you happy. And over time, those little details stop being just decor choices and start becoming these tiny, everyday reminders that you are in charge of your own comfort. Of course, that also means you have to own the flip side. If something's broken, there's no, honey, can you fix this moment? You're the honey. If the trash smells, guess what? You're the one taking it out. But here's the thing: that responsibility doesn't just make you more capable, it makes you more confident. There's something satisfying about changing your own light bulb, assembling your own bookshelf, and realizing you didn't need anyone's approval or help to get it done. But let me tell you, it's not just the chores or the decorations. It's the eyes energy of the space. When you walk through that door after a long day, you are walking into a place that is 100% a reflection of you. If you need calm, you create calm. If you want vibrancy, you create vibrancy. That's something you can't fully appreciate until you experience it, because your surroundings affect you probably more than you think. Now, I'll be honest, there's a temptation when you first live alone to let things slide because, well, nobody's watching. And that's where the ownership really shows up. You could leave the dishes in the sink for a week and sure, no one's going to complain. But over time, you realize keeping your space in order isn't about impressing anybody. It's about taking care of the one person who actually lives there, you. And here's something that might surprise you. The more intentional you get with your home, the more intentional you get with your life. You start asking, do I really want this in my space? And that question spills over into relationships, habits, and even your own self-talk. Because when you practice making your home a place that serves you, you naturally start doing the same for your mind and your heart. Living alone teaches you something subtle but transformative. You are capable of creating a life that feels good without needing someone else to design it for you. You don't wait for permission to buy the rug you love, to paint the wall your favorite color, or to rearrange the furniture just because it feels right. You just do it. And with every little choice, you're not just shaping a room, you're shaping yourself. And maybe that's the quiet, beautiful truth about having a space of your own. It's not really about the space at all. It's about building a place where you belong because you decided you belong there. So when people say, wow, it must be lonely living alone, I just smile, because if they stepped into my home for even 5 minutes, they'd see it's not loneliness that fills the rooms. It's me. The quiet is the part no one really prepares you for. You move in, you set everything up, you sit down that first night, and then you notice it. There's no background hum of someone else in the house, no conversation in the kitchen, no TV you didn't turn on, just quiet. And if you're not used to it, it can feel like the walls are pressing in a little. We live in a world where noise is normal. Cars outside, people talking, messages pinging on your phone. Even when you live with someone, there's always a layer of sound, footsteps, doors closing, a voice calling from the other room. Take that away, and it's just you. And in the beginning, that silence can feel like a challenge. Your brain almost wants to fill it. Turn on the TV, play some music, call someone, scroll endlessly, anything to avoid being alone with it. But here's what I learned: the quiet isn't empty. It's not a void you have to fill. It's actually space for your thoughts, for your emotions, for your own presence. And it's in that space that you start to learn about yourself in ways you never would if the noise never stopped. The first time you really sit in the quiet without distraction, it's a little uncomfortable. You notice things, old memories, things you've been avoiding, feelings you've been ignoring. And yeah, that can be heavy, but it can also be freeing, because what the quiet does is it removes the filter. There's nothing to drown out what's actually going on inside you. And that honesty, even when it's hard, is the beginning of real growth. At some point, the quiet stops feeling like silence and starts feeling like peace. You start to crave it. Instead of being something you rush to escape, it becomes a space you look forward to. You make a cup of tea, sit in your favorite spot, and you just exist. And you realize, I'm okay here. I'm okay with me. That shift changes everything, because when you're okay with the quiet, you're no longer afraid of it. You don't need constant noise, constant people, constant validation to feel secure. You carry that security inside you, and that's a kind of independence no one can take away. Now, let me be clear. It's not about becoming some hermit who avoids the world. It's about balance. When you live alone, you can have moments of connection and moments of solitude without feeling like one has to replace the other. The quiet becomes a choice instead of a punishment, and you start to notice how it changes the way you show up in the rest of your life. When you've had time to be still, to think, to recharge in the quiet, you bring a different energy to your friendships, your work, your conversations. You're more grounded. You listen better. You don't need to dominate the space because you've already made peace with the one inside your own four walls. Some people will always see the quiet as a sign of loneliness. And sure, there are days when you feel the absence of another person's voice. But the truth is, loneliness isn't about the absence of people. It's about the absence of connection. And when you start connecting deeply with yourself, that loneliness loses its grip. What's interesting is, once you've made peace with the quiet, you can also share it. You can sit with someone without feeling the need to fill every second with words. You can be in the same room with a friend reading or sipping coffee, and it's just as rich as the loudest night out. That's when you know the quiet isn't just something you've gotten used to, it's something you've mastered. And maybe that's one of the most unexpected gifts of living alone. You walk in thinking the quiet might swallow you, but somewhere along the way, you learn it's been holding you the whole time. One of the biggest misconceptions about living alone is that it automatically means you're isolated. People hear you don't have a partner in the house, and they imagine you spending every night staring out a window, just waiting for someone to show up. But that's not how it works. Living alone doesn't mean you cut yourself off from the world. It just means you get to choose how and when you connect with it. When you live with a partner, there's often a built-in sense of companionship, someone to talk to about your day, someone to eat dinner with, someone to watch a show with before bed. And yeah, that can be great, but when you don't have that default person, you start to build connection in a different way. You learn to reach out, to make plans, to create a community that's not dependent on one individual. And here's the thing, those connections can actually feel richer because they're intentional. You're not hanging out with someone just because you happen to share a lease or a last name. You're investing your time and energy into people who genuinely add value to your life. You start to see your friendships not as extras, but as vital, chosen relationships. It also shifts the way you see your own role in other people's lives. You're not just the plus one or the end spouse in someone else's story. You're a full person showing up as yourself. And when you show up that way, people start to respond to you differently. They invite you because they want you there, not just because it's expected. Now, building that kind of independence in relationships doesn't happen overnight. At first, you might feel a little left out. You might scroll through social media and see couples doing couple things, and there's a part of you that wonders if you're missing out. But then you realize something, they're making those memories within their circle, and you're making yours within yours. One isn't better than the other. They're just different. Living alone also pushes you to try new things. Maybe you join a book club or take a cooking class or start volunteering somewhere. You meet people in all these different spaces who might never have crossed your path otherwise. And slowly you start building this network of connections, friends, neighbors, coworkers, people who know you, see you, and care about you. And here's a funny little side effect. You start enjoying your own company more, which actually makes your relationship stronger because you're not looking to someone else to fix your boredom or fill your time. You're coming into each interaction as a whole person, not as someone who's trying to get patched up by another human being. That makes your conversations more real, your laughter more genuine, and your presence more valued. I think sometimes we forget that one person can't and shouldn't be our everything. It's a lot of pressure to put on a relationship, expecting that one person to meet every emotional, social, and practical need we have. Living alone forces you to spread that out, to recognize that connection comes in many forms. Some days it's a long phone call with your best friend. Some days it's a wave and a quick chat with the barista who knows your coffee order. Some days it's a deep conversation with someone you just met at an event. And all of that counts. When you live alone, you realize you can still have a full, vibrant social life. It just doesn't revolve around a single person. And that's freeing. It means you can build a life that's flexible, resilient, and rich in different kinds of love and support. So no, independence doesn't mean isolation. It means learning how to connect in ways that are authentic, balanced, and sustainable. It's not about living in a bubble. It's about creating a life where you're surrounded by people because you chose, not because you needed them to keep you from feeling alone. When you live alone, there's no one else to hand the bills to, no one to split the rent with, no one to remind you the car needs servicing or that you're almost out of laundry detergent. Every piece of your day, today life lands squarely in your lap. And while that can sound intimidating, it's actually one of the most empowering parts of the whole experience because you start to realize just how capable you really are. The first time you sit down with a stack of bills and know it's all on you, there's this little voice that might say, what if I can't do this? But then you do it, you figure it out, you track your expenses, you make a budget, you decide where your money goes. And the thing is, it's not just about paying for the roof over your head. It's about understanding what that roof represents. It's proof that you can take care of yourself, that you can make decisions and live with the results. And it's not just financial responsibility, it's personal responsibility. If something breaks, you don't get to shrug and say, that's not my job. It's all your job. From unclogging a sink to replacing the batteries in the smoke detector, you become the one who notices, the one who acts, the one who fixes. You might not know how to do everything right away, but you learn, you watch a video, you ask a friend, you figure it out. And every time you solve a problem, you build a little more confidence in your ability to handle the next one. Of course, personal responsibility isn't just about the things you can touch. It's about the choices you make for your own well-being. No one's here to tell you to go to bed early or eat a vegetable once in a while. No one's going to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't watch 6 hours of TV and call that dinner. It's on you to set the boundaries, the routines, the habits that keep you healthy and moving forward. And that's where the real growth happens. Because when there's no safety net, you start thinking ahead. You ask yourself, what do I need to do today to make sure tomorrow is easier? You pay attention to the details because you know if you don't, no one else will. That level of awareness doesn't just make you more responsible. It makes you more intentional. Now, there will be moments when you wish you had someone else to carry the load. Days when the fridge stops working or the car won't start or the tax bill comes in higher than you expected and you feel that weight pressing down. But here's the thing. When you get through those moments, you don't just come out with the problem solved. You come out with proof. Proof that you didn't give up. Proof that you're stronger than you thought. And the more you live that way, the less you see responsibility as a burden and the more you see it as freedom. Because responsibility gives you control. If you're in charge of your life, you get to decide how it runs. You choose your priorities. You choose what you invest in, both with your money and your time. And when you make those choices well, You create a life that actually supports you instead of drains you. There's also this quiet pride that builds up over time. The first time you pay your rent in full without worrying how you'll make it through the month, the first time you fix something without calling for help, the first time you plan ahead and see it pay off, you feel it. That pride is yours, earned and deserved, and it's the kind of thing that stays with you. Living alone teaches you that being responsible isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up for yourself over and over, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's hard. And when you do that long enough, you stop asking, can I handle this? And start saying, I've got this. When you live alone as a woman with no husband, people will try to hand you a story before they've even heard yours. They'll write your narrative in their heads, sometimes with pity, sometimes with admiration, sometimes with a little confusion. And if you're not careful, you can start to believe their version instead of your own. That's why one of the most important things you learn is how to define your own narrative before someone else does it for you. It starts with recognizing the labels people throw around. Words like single or unattached or still looking often get tossed into conversations as if your relationship status is the headline of your life. But your headline doesn't have to be about what you don't have. It can be about what you do have, what you've built, and who you've become. The beauty of living alone is that you get the space to write that headline yourself without compromise, without anyone editing it down to fit their idea of who you should be. And here's the truth. Defining your own narrative doesn't mean you have to go out and do something dramatic just to prove a point. It's not about shouting, I'm fine on my own every chance you get. It's about living in a way that quietly, consistently proves it to yourself. It's in the way you make decisions without waiting for permission. It's in the way you build a home that reflects your tastes, your values, and your dreams. It's in the way you spend your time, your energy, and your money on things that actually matter to you. Of course, some people won't understand. They'll project their own fears or their own desires onto your situation. They might think you're lonely when you're not, or assume you want something you don't. And that's okay. Their opinion doesn't have to be your reality. You can let them keep their assumptions while you keep living your truth. The freedom in this is that you no longer have to measure your life against someone else's timeline. You stop looking at your age and comparing it to what your friends or family members had at that point. You stop treating your worth like it's tied to whether you've checked the same boxes they did. Instead, you start asking, what do I actually want my life to look like? And when you live alone, you have the freedom to answer that question without outside noise drowning you out. That freedom also lets you redefine success for yourself. For some people, success is a big house, a family, a certain kind of career. For you, maybe it's waking up without an alarm, running your own business from your kitchen table, or traveling somewhere new every year. Maybe it's about deep friendships or creating art or simply having a safe, peaceful place to come home to. When you own your narrative, you get to decide what counts as enough. And when you do that long enough, something amazing happens. You stop feeling the need to justify yourself. You don't have to explain why you live alone, why you're not married, why you're not chasing the same things as everyone else. You realize your life is valid simply because it's yours. That's the kind of confidence that can't be faked, and it comes from living in alignment with your own story, not someone else's script. Sometimes defining your own narrative means making choices other people don't get. Sometimes it means saying no to things they would have said yes to, and sometimes it means saying yes to things they would never consider. But that's the point. It's your choice. And in a world that loves to tell women who they should be, living in a way that reflects who you actually are is one of the most powerful things you can do. Because at the end of the day, the most important part of your story isn't whether it matches anyone else's. It's whether you're proud to call it your own. So here's what it all comes down to. Living alone with no husband isn't a sentence. It's a choice. And even if it wasn't your original plan, it can still be a life you design with intention, pride, and joy. You learn to own your space, to make peace with the quiet, to build community that's real, to carry your responsibilities with strength, and to write your own story without asking for approval. It's not about proving you don't need anyone. It's about knowing that you can stand on your own and still let people in. Because when you live fully unapologetically and on your own terms, you stop chasing the life you were told to have and start living the one you were meant to create.